I'm Alice Harra. I am the director of the Center for Life Beyond Read, and previously to Read, I was at Northwestern University, and I'm so happy to be at Read.
Hi, I'm Hayden. I am a career and fellowship advisor at the Center for Life Beyond Read. I've been here for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years this summer. I do advising for students who are interested in the arts, humanities, social sciences, as well as pre-law.
I am Shania. I'm one of the career and fellowship advisors for the Center for Life Beyond Read as well. I also co-manage our fellowships portfolio. I like to describe myself as like the human Google of fellowships. So I have a lot of questions coming my way, but I also am supporting our office through the Communities of Purpose, and mine are entrepreneurship and business strategy, as Hayden mentioned, investing in financial responsibility, and globalization and diplomacy.
We've been thinking about this for a while. One of the things we talked about as a team is thinking about ways we can help people understand how we imagine their lives and their careers once they've done this experience, at our college. One of the questions we get most often, but it's also one of the things that I think is the most distinctive, the way in which we offer our services. I think it's different from what other schools do. I think there's a competitive advantage, and it's really thinking about the students and not just outcomes. But as a result, the outcomes end up being really great.
So the way our office is divided is we use a model that's called the Communities of Purpose model. And so rather than thinking about a student coming in and being like, this is exactly what I want to be when I grow up, we think about where are the places that a student is going to want to have impact. Because that is a question that a first year student can answer, right? You can think about like, what are the things that really get me passionate and excited? What are the magazines I'm reading, right? What are the news articles I always go back to? What are the topics that really keep me fired up? And use that as sort of the centering space of how we start to think about your career and longer term goals. And because of that, we use our community purpose model, which is 9 different communities that are centered around different areas of impact. So I work in the areas of arts and expression, education, human potential, and citizenship and community living. And then within those communities, I do advising for fellowships, grad school, as well as career advising, right? So like if you are a first year student and you're like, I'm looking for an on-campus job, and I like think that I'm interested in maybe doing something at the Cooley Gallery on campus. I would be the advisor you came and saw. And then in 3 years from now, if you decide to apply for a summer internship award, I could support you in that process, as well as, your senior year, if you decide to apply to grad school, then I would also be the same advisor. So you can meet with the same advisor throughout your entire trajectory. We really want to like meet people multiple times and get to see them all 4 years. That's like when the work gets really exciting.
I love that continuity. I love that relationship building. So it means that you end up seeing a student basically for their entire career at Reed, essentially, assuming that they're in the same discipline.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the ideal situation is, I get to see a student as a first year student when they come in, and then a senior as they're applying to grad school or applying to their long-term position, and really getting to see their development all the way through.
In the 4 years we get to know them, we are not only supporting them with, internships, grad school, and fellowships, but we're also getting to know them on an interpersonal level. So we're able to really support students in their wayfinding experience. As their goals and priorities change, we're able to help connect them with other campus community partners and alumni and off-campus partners. And so we are really developing not so much a transactional experience between us and our advisees, but really an experience based on relationship building. We encourage students to keep seeing us. At the end of every meeting, I'm like, keep making appointments with me, reach out to me, you know how to find me. I expect to see you again.
The pathway that you take is not always aligned with your major. A major is an academic.
Yeah.
There are often other ways that you want to express in life. So you can be a music major who's very interested in science or healthcare or technology and vice versa. And I think this allows us we neither start with, what job do you want? That's not a question that we start with. We really start with your why and your purpose. Nor do we have expectations built around your major. We don't say, oh, you're English major. Well, that means blah, blah. And so I think this integrated model, as Shania mentioned, really allows us to introduce students to people or to funding or to opportunities they would have never thought about. And that means the intentionality is the issues that we saw in these 9 communities of purpose that we built a couple of years ago tend to be around, and let me round it out with one more advisor. We have another advisor who does the care and cure of illness, sustainable life on earth, and technology and innovation. So those are the 9 that are centered around questions and issues that you want to solve rather than jobs you want to do, which is not developmentally appropriate for students.
Our hope is that you love what you do, because sometimes asking them like, what impact do you want to make, is we don't want to scare them away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to build on that. One of our operating principles that we have here, one of our beliefs, is that we meet students where they are. So some students come in really clear about that, but most don't, and that's great. We want to start wherever you are. We can start connecting the dots for you. Rather than making more dots, we like to connect the dots for you as you move down your pathway and think about, well, how do I explore that? What's next? We walk with you all the way through.
Some of the more fun parts about being an advisor through this model is like in helping them connect the dots, we get to be a part of their like aha moments, of like finally realizing like what that narrative is, what that impact is, and really when they finally get to figure out like where they might like to focus their attention if they don't know. So we really encourage students to come to see us when they just don't know. That's that's our favorite part of advising, is helping you figure that out.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I think oftentimes students think this happens my senior year, my junior year, I'm getting ready to wrap up. Now I have to think about the next thing. But everything I've heard you all talk about starts your first year.
But most career centers in the country are aligned like that to make them feel like you have to come at the end and when you know what you want to do already, because your services and your advising are aligned by knowing what you want to do. And that's why we unplugged that completely and started with communities of purpose. And to Shania's point, it's the aha moments. It's the beginning with, I don't have any idea. That's where we really have the most fun.
I just talked to a senior who was like, I don't really know what I'm interested in. Like, I don't even know if it exists. And that was actually the place of question, is they didn't know the career professional language that described exactly what they wanted to do. And that's where they were feeling hung up, right? They were able to articulate to me, I'm interested in sustainable agriculture, particularly around how we start to implement and learn from Indigenous communities that have been able to do sustainable agriculture for long periods of time. And I was like, you know exactly what you want to do.
I know. You're like, that's actually quite specific.
That's so specific. And actually what you don't know is you don't know necessarily the tools to get there, or the job title associated with the type of organizations that are doing that. And I think that's where, like what Alice was saying about connecting the dots, it's like, it's not your job to know what job title that is. That's our job to help you find it.
I do at some point want to round out our team, though. We have 3 advisors who do this integrated model of all of those career, graduate school, and fellowship advisors.
That's really neat.
Around a communities of purpose model. In addition to that, we have a full-time employer outreach, employee relations, and her work is to translate read and a read education and readees out to the world and to bring those employers here either to read physically or through Handshake, our platform, or through virtual sessions, and bring that to the students for either internships or jobs. One more member of our team is Nate the Great. We call him Nate Martin, as a class of 2016. We all smile big because we love Nate. Nate serves as the operations coordinator.
So this idea of fellowships, there are these national organizations that offer money for students to have post-read experiences, whenever they're done at their college. Shania, you help them coordinate this process. I know this, we're incredibly competitive when it comes to receiving these awards.
Reed College is one of the top producers of Fulbright in the country. We are 35 out of 40 baccalaureate institutions. So this year we were awarded the top producer title of Fulbright. 3 out of the last 4 years, we have been top producers for this award. It is the second most applied to award in our office and in our national fellowship portfolio. And clearly the scaffolding is working, because we're getting, more successful applications and continue to be top producers for the award. Reed has a lot of internal funding, and that provides students with a less risky way to start testing the water and competing for funding. And it really gives them the chance to flex that writing skill I find that a lot of, of course, Reed students are amazing writers, but writing for fellowships is a different art. And so it takes a little bit of time for students to get comfortable writing about themselves and what they want to do, and writing about their own accomplishments and trying to form a narrative around why this funding would support what they want to do. The scaffolding process really helps students develop a comfort with starting to write more about themselves than citing other people, right? And so along with that, we also really pull from the experience of our past winners. We will have programming where we invite alumni or former winners of these awards to come in and speak from their own experience. Students generally are more interested to hear from peers and alumni than from me, which is fair. But students can really speak to some of the more nuanced parts of the fellowship process and lived experience of it that I personally don't have. I really look at our process from a lens of like accessibility. If you are a student who's never heard of the award and you don't know what you want to apply for, is our process set up that you could still find the award? Could you find information? Can you get clarity around what a fellowship is and what the process is?
Just so you know, it's a first year you can apply for a career advancement fund. So that's the scaffolding. As we start with a small Reed-based fund like the Career Advancement Fund, which is up to $500. And then it advances to a summer internship award. We're reading the applications now for the summer internship award, and that's $4,000 to do what we call an unpaid or an underpaid internship in the summer in the arts, social justice, education, any of the sort of nonprofit fields. And it moves up and up until you get to the ability, as Shania said, to write for these awards you may have never heard of, but they would be significant and change your life. We're not just here to help a student get a job when they get out of college. We're here to teach them a set of skills, because if you think about it, this is for the parents. You've had 7, 8, 9 jobs. We want to teach the students the ability to think and rethink. How do I network? How do I craft my narrative? What do my tools look like? How do I know how to reach out to others? How do I know how to apply to graduate school or apply to a fellowship or any of those transferable skills that will take them along their way? So we see our work is beyond Reed.
The sort of foundation of the job search doesn't change. Where you might look for a job is going to change. Who you want to talk to is going to change based off of the career that you want and the industry that you're going into, right? But the nuts and bolts of it, how you articulate your interest and what you're wanting, how you take a step back to think about how, the decision-making process of where I'm going to go long-term, what's going to be the right fit for me, where can I really develop my skills and excel in a career, that process doesn't change. And what we're trying to do is teach them the skill sets to do those things so that if they do come back, 2-3 years from now, or 5 to 10 years from now, if they reach back out to alumni programs, what they're doing is they're reaching out for a name. They're like, hey, I'm interested in potentially moving to Portland and I'm searching for a job. Can you connect me with people? They're not necessarily all the way back at the beginning where they're thinking about like, I don't know how to articulate my interest, or I don't feel confident articulating what I want out of a career. That they leave with the skill sets to be able to do those pieces. Because that's the hard part.
What are 2 or 3 things we could share with families to help them understand why, if this is a path that they choose to embark on and are successful at Reed, then you absolutely will have opportunities in front of you?
PreLaw in particular. So I'm our PreLaw advisor on campus. And what I can say about that is, again, coming back to that alumni piece, we have folks who are really interested in a good diversity of folks in the legal profession right here in Portland. And so we've had opportunities to go see one of our alum last year argue in front of the Oregon Supreme Court. We were able to take a group of students in conjunction with alumni programs to do that, and then actually do a debrief with our alum afterwards. So students had the opportunity to actually witness the case, be presented, and then talk to the lawyer afterwards to break down what they were interested in, right? So that's an example of some of the opportunities that we like to be able to offer in conjunction with our Reed Legal Network. There's not a perfect major if you're considering law school, right? When students come to me and they're like, we don't have a pre-law major and I don't know what to put on my resume, because what should my resume look like? We're always thinking of how are we crafting your narrative and telling your story. So if you're applying to law school and you're saying, long term, what I want to do is practice immigration law. How have you demonstrated that you've been able to be engaged with immigrant communities? How have you been able to engage with immigration policy? And if you're coming to me with, thinking about that as a sophomore, then we might say, okay, let's reach out to IRCO, which is a local nonprofit organization that is also a work study partner for Reed. And we've had loads of students intern with them over the summer, and they work with immigration populations here in the Portland metropolitan area, right? So we're thinking about like, how do we not only look at classroom experience, right? Because we know you have the skills there. Okay, where are the ways that we can round out your resume?
I want to pick up on what Hayden said and emphasize that in the relationships that we have with the medical schools that we speak to, the deans of admissions, there is no perfect major for medical school. They're now asking us, stop sending us a biology major, send us, Spanish, philosophy, so other areas. I mean, you do have to have a certain rigorous scientific background, which would fit Reed's model. Reed's score 1 or 2 percentage points higher than the national average on MCAT. So that's another thing that med schools are looking at is MCAT, and Reedy's have really strong performances there. We look more broadly than just medical school. We want to introduce students to a wide range of public health and biomed, biotech. There's a wide range of things happening in that space. And if the care and cure of illness is your community of purpose, then we want to help, expand that understanding of what's possible.
The fun part about what we do is and I can hear it in both the way Hayden and Alice described pre-health and pre-law is, our job is to figure out where Reed students are strongest in this process, and where we can step in for potential weaknesses. If it's, helping them get job shadows or helping our pre-law students, despite their major, figure out how to build their narrative. We can speak to any of our communities of purpose and identify where Reedies are ultimately always going to be successful because they're Reedies. But then where we can step in to help that process be a little bit more smooth, or a little bit more intuitive, or help them be a little bit more confident and informed.
We have a team of 5 student staff who are available for both one-on-one advising as well as programming. But really the goal and the intention behind the programming with the peer career advisors is ideally they are our students' first contact with the Center for Life Beyond Reed. They go through a pretty rigorous training before they start to be able to provide basic resume, cover letter, interview support, as well as support students as they are completing applications for internal funding opportunities. And they're available a couple different ways. So they're able to meet with students one-on-one. You can book them through Handshake, as well as they offer drop-in. We want to remove the barriers to access to our office. It can be scary to make an appointment with a career advisor. Yeah. Not everybody wants to have this existential conversation about the rest of your life at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, right? Apparently that's overwhelming. And so, we're thinking about how do we make easy connections for students. When we're thinking about things like applying for funding or applying to an on-campus job, there's no better advisor on campus than someone who's already done it. Every single one of the peer career advisors on our team has received either internal or external funding opportunities. Each person has an individualized position. So we have students who are working directly with the International Student Center to think about how do we provide programming specifically for international students? How do we provide programming in conjunction with the Office of Institutional Diversity, so our SEEDS office and the Multicultural Resource Center, and doing things in collaboration with other departments on campus to really make sure that we're increasing our reach and meeting students where they are. But we want to do that both in terms of developmentally, but also very literally, physically. Where are you? And let's literally meet you where you are.
One of the things that really means a lot to me at the center is often, directors wonder if, students are engaged and whatnot. And we do a first destination survey 6 months after graduation. And that number has increasingly been going up. So this last one that we did with the class of 2020, when we asked seniors, have you ever connected with the Center for Life Beyond Reed in any way? 80% said yes in their tenure. So that,
Wow.
to me, I've watched that number grow, and that speaks a lot. The other one that I really love, and this speaks to the power of the advising team, is that 63% of the students who have applied for these larger national awards have done some sort of read-based funding. So that proves that our model
The scaffolding.
is quantifiably showing.
Well, one of my favorite things, and this like really reinforces why I love working with Readies, is that over 50% of our alumni go on to pursue something that's outside of what they studied academically. You know, they pursue a career that's outside of their academic interests, and I think that's so cool, and it speaks to the multifaceted interests of Reed students, and that it also reminds you that there is no right answer. You can absolutely pivot and change your trajectory, and that's okay, and you're supported along that entire process.
We had a social justice intern over the summer who I was supervising. The student was working on increasing accessibility within our office and developed an audit and then a report for us to utilize in terms of making our office more accessible for students on the spectrum and other folks with disabilities. And so we were really fortunate to have someone who did amazing work, and we're able to connect that person with a community member who was close to our office, and that person was able to take them on almost immediately. By the time their work ended with us, that student was able to go on and do data analysis and research for a community member, and is doing economic research with them part-time right now, and is actually getting ready. We've been working together to develop a proposal for that student to propose to work full-time with them after graduation. And that was after having a conversation where, you know, I was talking to the student and I was like, how is the position going? And they were like, you know, it's going really well. It's, you know, it's going to be ending here in a couple months. And I'm like, you're not going to be full-time? And they were like, no. And I was like, but do you like working? You like working there? And they were like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. And I'm like, tell them that, you know, tell them you want to work for them after graduation. And it was like a light bulb came on, and they were like, oh, okay. And I'm like, okay, let's start working on a proposal. You know, how are you going to bring this up to them? Like, let's prepare you for that. You know, if this is something you care about and want to keep doing, like, I'm on your side. Like, let's get you a job. It's one of those aha moments where you spend enough time with a student that you start to be able to have really just a very natural conversation with them about what they want to do and what do you care about and what are you going to do after graduation. And and it doesn't have to be us prescribing things for them to do, but trying to really have those conversations around like, how's it going? You know, what's the plan? And then like working with them to figure out that aha moment and, you know, what those next steps are going to look like.
I guess I would just close by saying students have questions, and we welcome that even before you get here. And if you're trying to think about what to do, so please do reach out to us at beyondread@read.edu, and we answer emails pretty quickly.